At the very outset, sir, I might submit that I have no hesitation in offering my congratulations to the Railway Minister for the good financial position of our railways as indicated in his speech on the railway budget for the year 1999-2000. There has also been a fall, as speakers have mentioned before, in railway goods traffic and in income from passenger traffic. The fall in goods traffic has been attributed by the railway authorities to unfair competition from private operators of transport working on lines parallel to the railways, and the decline has been attributed to natural economic conditions prevailing in the country. In regard to the fall in goods traffic, I agree that it is the concern of the railways to ensure that the income should not fall, but it should be seen that they do nothing so that the private operators of transport who do a national service would go out of existence. It is true that the private operators have been able to defy competition by the railways, but it must have happened because the private operators have given economic and operational advantages which the railways could not give, and I incline to say that if the railway authorities give the same advantages, economic as well as operational, I am sure that they will get back all the clients who have gone away from them. I hope the railway authorities and the government would look into this matter in this view and do nothing so that the private operators go out of existence. There is great need for these private operators, and so I repeat that the railway authorities should think twice and should give their due attention before taking any wrong step that would drive these operators from their operations. The fall in passenger traffic, I hope, is a temporary feature, and I hope also that it will be alright when we recover from the conditions which we passed through last year. The budget speech of the Railway Minister introducing the budget has been a very pleasant and good one. There has been improvement in every sphere and activity of the railway administration. The rolling stock has increased considerably, and practically we have met all the demands in this respect. I make a special mention of the engines and locomotives which come out of Chittaranjan workshop and Telco workshop. There has been increase of amenities to passengers which is evident every day when we travel on the railways. The welfare of railway officers working in the railway administration has been considerable, and all our thanks are due to the railway administration for this care of their officers. This happy position should not, however, lead to a sense of complacency and undue safety on the part of the railway authorities. The railway minister has already many problems which have defied solution up to date, and he has to work hard and long for solving them. I would only refer to overcrowding in trains, failure of trains to travel in scheduled time, increase in accidents, ticketless traveling, insanitary condition of rest houses for lower class passengers, and poor quality of food. As regards overcrowding in trains, it is plain to everybody who goes by train that there is overcrowding today everywhere. This is especially noticed in suburban trains. Sights of passengers hanging on whatever support is available in the trains or traveling on footboards are not rare, and during the holiday season and on special occasions, the roofs of trains are also taken into service. I know that some passengers take to these dangerous modes of traveling to avoid payment, but it can be safely said that these would disappear if there was no overcrowding. I referred to amenities to passengers provided by the railway administration, but they do lose their value when we see the travelers being huddled together in conditions which are more fit for animals than human beings. I hope this question, which is of very great importance of the railways, should be seriously looked into by the Honorable Railway Minister. The failure of rail trains in reaching at the scheduled time is a matter which has been more than once before the House and elsewhere, and when the railway minister tried to explain the situation, there were peals of laughter which showed that the minister had not satisfied us. I would not like to speak much on it, but this should also be attended to seriously, and sooner it is done the better. The railway accidents have increased, which is most unfortunate. I know that the railway authorities do realize the importance and gravity of this question and are trying to consider the matter seriously from a three-pronged attack, namely psychological, educative, and punitive. If punitive measures are required, I feel that such measures should be taken severely and effectively. Any light-hearted punitive measures will not help. At the same time, I feel that something is lacking in the railway organization. Madam, the Honorable Finance Minister in his budget speech has admitted that the taxes he has levied are of an exceptional character, and he himself has stated that the taxation proposals of the fifth budget of his career total the additional taxation proposals of the other four put together, and he has justified his rather heavy taxation on the ground that the defense and the development needs of the country require such a heavy burden. Madam, I entirely agree with the Honorable Finance Minister that exceptional efforts are for resources mobilization have to be made in view of the critical situation through which we are passing, and therefore I have no hesitation in supporting the general approach which has guided the bill which is now before this House. At the same time, Madam, it is necessary to examine the conditions that will be necessary in order to mobilize these resources, so that ultimately it may not be in our efforts to mobilize resources and the generation of additional resources which would be needed in future for our defense and development purposes may become very difficult. It is in this regard that it will be necessary, while considering the proposals contained in this bill, to review the general health of the economy and the impact that these proposals are likely to make on the economic conditions in our country. We were told again and again by the Agriculture Minister that everything was alright as far as the agricultural sector was concerned, that the food position was very sound, that the other agricultural products were making rapid progress, and that there was no need for any anxiety. It was therefore with some shock that the country read about the proceedings of the AICC, which met in New Delhi, wherein this question was pointedly referred to by the Planning Minister as well as by the Minister of Food and Agriculture. From the discussions that appeared in the newspapers, we found that there was something very seriously wrong with our agricultural product sector, and that it was not making that headway which it was expected to make and which it claimed it was making, and therefore as a result of the stagnation in this country, in this sector, the entire economy was stagnating. Some detailed considerations regarding the reasons why our agriculture was not making any progress were also considered according to the reports. From the discussions, it becomes quite clear that the administrative machinery was not geared to the very big tasks that were ahead in the agricultural sector, and even today it has become more and more difficult to find out exactly on whom the responsibility for developing the agricultural sector is to be fixed and who is to be held responsible in case the targets which have been prescribed for the agricultural sector are not fulfilled. We had some general discussion regarding who needs to be done in this matter, but so far we have not been given any assurance or any clear picture as to what the government purposes to do in order to put the agricultural sector on a sounder footing. This is all the more regrettable because for the last 4 or 5 years we are continuously hearing of the determination of the government to see that the agricultural sector is put on a sound footing, and also the declaration of the realization on the part of the government and especially of the Prime Minister that so far agricultural sector was a neglected sector of our economy, that it was a mistake, that it was a great lacuna in our planning, and that the government was henceforth determined to see that this sector developed as rapidly as possible. Madam, we want resources. We want resources for our defense. We want resources for our development. And how is the community to find these resources in case the economy is not developed at even the prescribed rate? When the 10th 5-year plan was prepared, obviously the emergency which suddenly overtook this country in October-November 2002 was not in their consideration. The targets were fixed mostly in terms of the development of the economy and not so much in terms of defense of the country. After that, this country has suddenly been called upon to assume a further responsibility of finding resources for the defense of the country. Now, if defense were taken out for the time being of our consideration, and if purely the question of development and needs of development were kept before our eyes, even then the targets that were fixed in the 10th 5-year plan ought to have been realized. And the report on the 10th 5-year plan clearly mentions that even if those targets were released, if progress was made as prescribed, even then it would be rather onerous on the part of the community to find adequate resources for the development of our economy. Therefore, the development needs require tremendous efforts on the part of the community.